Welcome to This is Getting Old, Moving Towards an Age-Friendly World. I'm your host, Melissa Batchelor, and today I'm going to be talking to you about what are the stages of Alzheimer's disease. So I've taken care of thousands of older adults living with Alzheimer's disease, and ultimately, you're either going to die with this disease or you're going to die from it. And I hope that this information is going to help you prepare as your loved one moves through the stages of this disease. So there is some variation about how people stage dementia. Sometimes there are like 6 or 7 stages, and I prefer to keep things pretty simple. So it's early, middle, late, or basically mild, moderate, severe. But then also there is ultimately the dying process, which is typically referred to as end stage dementia. And the stages are helpful to understand the overall picture about what a person's ability should be. But at any given moment, caregivers have to adjust the care that they provide based on where that person living with dementia is at the moment. So there's sometimes overlap between stages. And so it's really just meant to be a guide. There's not like die hard and fast rules that someone is. There's obviously a big contrast between early and late. But once you get into the middle and you're sliding into late, sometimes that's a little bit harder to tease out. But here's what we do know about Alzheimer's disease. It's a progressive neurodegenerative disease. And so that means that your brain is going to fail over time. And as your brain is failing, it's going to, it can take up to 4 to 8 years, sometimes 20 years. It really just depends on how healthy you were before you were diagnosed. But as your brain fails, it's going to impact your ability to function and take care of yourself independently. So let's talk about early stage Alzheimer's disease or mild Alzheimer's disease. In the early stages of the disease, a person they should be able to function pretty independently. So they should still be able to drive, they can go to work, and they can participate in social activities. The symptoms aren't really apparent in the mild stage, but family and close friends may notice some changes either in forgetting familiar words or forgetting where they put things. And you can also check out my podcast on the 10 warning signs of Alzheimer's disease. But common symptoms or difficulties in this stage include trouble remembering names when you're introduced to new people, coming up with the right name or word, particularly nouns, losing or misplacing valuable or commonly used items, having trouble with planning or organizing, or they're having difficulty performing tasks at work. So as you can see, these symptoms are actually pretty mild. They will be harder to pick up on. And this is also why getting diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease can take quite some time, because a person could be having mild memory or thinking issues for several years before they're ever at the point that they're going to be diagnosed. So now let's talk about the middle stage of Alzheimer's or moderate Alzheimer's disease. And the middle stage is going to be the longest stage that people are in. This is typically when people are diagnosed, and the memory issues and the thinking problems are going to become a lot more apparent, and they're going to need a greater level of care over time. So the person may get confused or angry, or they may act out in different ways, like refusing to take a bath. But they're also going to begin to have a lot more trouble expressing their thoughts, and they may confuse words or have trouble performing routine tasks without some help. So common symptoms or difficulties in this stage include being moody, so think mood swings, especially in mental or socially challenging situations. They're going to have a much easier time recalling information from long ago, and they're going to have more difficulty with short-term memory. So this means they're going to be able to remember their things from their childhood or young adulthood, but they may not recall what they had for breakfast or what you did yesterday. They may be more confused about what day it is or where they are. So the way we lose our orientation, we're oriented to person, place, and time. We lose our orientation to time first, then place, and then person, meaning, we're going to know who we are a lot longer than we know what day of the week it is or what time of day it is, or where we may be, what city or state, particularly if someone has moved. They may need help choosing clothes that are appropriate for the season or for the occasion. You may begin to see trouble with bowel and bladder, or they may get their days and nights mixed up. They may wander more, and they're going to get lost easier. They may also have personality or behavioral changes, such as delusions, compulsiveness, or suspiciousness, sometimes because they've hidden something so no one would get it, and then they forget where they put it, so they blame you for stealing it. Or you may see more repetitive behaviors like wringing of the hands or shredding tissues or picking at your clothes. So in the middle stages, a person can still participate in most of the activities of daily living. And when I say that, I mean that they can groom themselves, they can get dressed, but they may need assistance with that. But you should adjust the amount of care that you provide based on what that person can do in the moment, and simplify tasks if you can. Care is going to get more intense over time, so you need to know what resources you have in your community, like adult daycare or respite care, so that you can get a temporary break while your loved one is still in a safe place. Alzheimer's disease is one that's going to make all of us take one day at a time and live in the present moment. It can be a very long process, and I hope that this information and these recommendations for finding the support that you're going to need have been helpful. And thank you for listening to this podcast or tuning into the video today.